Are you tired of getting cornered? Do you find yourself losing too much armor and taking frustrating downs? Are you just unable to deal with super sprinters and damage scaling? Lucky for you, all of that is about to change after you watch this video. Whether you're attempting to reach high rounds, comfortably survive boss fights, or simply take less damage throughout your zombies experience, training is the single most important skill you need to master. Except throughout the years of COD Zombies titles, they have never explained how to actually do it. So today, I'm teaching you everything, from basic training principles to the best training spots for beginners, and some game-changing information all along the way. This is the last guide you will ever need to master the art of training zombies. With how accessible and forgiving most of the modern zombies games are, I'm willing to bet that most of you have failed to understand the basic concept of what training is and why it's important in the first place. Training is so much more than just running in circles or running away from zombies. On its most basic level, we are training zombies to get them into one condensed area. As you can see with this visual, when you have zombies spawning all around the map and you're running around and they're all chasing after you in an unorganized way, you could see the dangerous area around them is quite big. But if you manage to maneuver around them and train them up into a single line or single horde, you could see just how much more space and how much more condensed that danger zone actually is. You can actually see this quite well in Vanguard zombies if we take a look at the minimap as we are training this fresh horde of zombies. It starts off incredibly scattered, very dangerous, lots of potential for getting hit, but if we intelligently weave around them, they will eventually become this beautiful batch of zombies that we can kill really efficiently, handle really efficiently, and be incredibly safe from. Once you have that group of zombies, you could do Easter egg steps, you could reload, you could buy more ammo, you could go pack-a-punch, you could go do whatever you want so long as you have that horde with you. Now, to first understand how this works, you need to understand a couple core principles. First and foremost, there is a limit to how many zombies that spawn in at one time. While each round of zombies will have more and more zombies in order to pass the round, there is a limit to how many zombies that can be spawned in present on the map at a time. We call this limit a zombie horde. So one horde of zombies in classic zombies, as in Black Ops 3 and before, is 24, meaning there are only 24 zombies in one horde. Only 24 zombies can be spawned in at any given time in Black Ops 3 and before. I believe in Cold War this was raised to 32 zombies per horde, and here in Black Ops 7 I believe it is 40 zombies per horde, meaning that yes, you're going to need to handle 40 zombies at the same time in Black Ops 7. Once this horde limit is reached, no zombies will spawn in after that. You can see if you don't kill zombies and you're just training around one group of zombies, one horde, no other zombies will spawn. They will only start spawning after you kill zombies, which will come into play a little bit later. The second principle is that zombies will, mostly, never try and cut you off. Basic zombies will always try to beeline it straight for you. They will never try to cut you off. They will never try to predict where you're going and try to get in front of you. And this is something that the essence of training takes full advantage of. On top of zombies never trying to cut you off, as mind-blowing as this might be for you, zombies are never faster than you if you're walking. That's right, you could see it right here. Even though the zombie animation is really fast, really aggressive, you can simply just walk around and the zombies are not going to catch up to you. That is until we get to super sprinters in Modern Warfare Zombies, Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, but we'll get to that. For 90% of your practice runs for training, zombies are not going to be faster than you even if you're walking. This allows you to slow the game down and to make better decisions. With these two basic concepts, we can start talking about how to actually get a train going. The way I've broken down training is into two distinct phases. The first phase being the gathering phase or the hoarding phase, and the second phase being the killing phase. Obviously, before you kill zombies, you need to gather them up or hoard them up. So let's start with phase one. How do we gather zombies into a horde? I love this comparison because gathering zombies up is very, very similar to the classic Snake game where you have to eat the fruit in order to grow your snake longer and longer. Every single zombie that you dodge or you run past, that zombie will join the train behind you and become a part of the larger zombie horde. So the very first most basic way of gathering zombies is to just dodge them. This is the most intuitive. You see a zombie in front of you and you run around it. If you see a couple of zombies in front of you, you could go around both of them or you can go between them, and once you go past them, they will join your horde or your train behind you. Now, you might already have mastered this basic dodging technique because in modern games like Cold War, Black Ops 6, and Black Ops 7, I feel as though this is really the only sort of strategy that you need in order to be successful through the first like 30 rounds or so. But we can get even better, because the second thing you need to master is the slow down and wait, or the hurry up. This can be a somewhat counterintuitive method to avoid zombies, and this mostly happens when you're in tight areas or doorways. If you're trying to go to a specific area, go through a specific doorway, and you see a zombie coming from that door or blocking your area or blocking your pathway to the door, you might be tempted to either sprint through the door or shoot the zombie or avoid the door entirely. But in reality, all you need to do is wait for the zombie to pass through the door and then go around the zombie. This works because of that core principle of zombies are always going to beeline it straight for you, and they will never camp or wait for you to come to them. You know you want to go through that door. The zombie doesn't. The zombie's just going to chase after you. So just let it chase after you for a couple of seconds and go around it through the door or passageway you want to. Think about this like it was real life. You want to go into some place through a door, but someone's coming out of that door. You're just going to be polite and let them leave the door and then go in after them. Admittedly, this does feel counterintuitive because it can feel like there is a horde of zombies right behind you and there's so much pressure behind you, but I will say most of the time you have at least that 1/2 second or second to pause and then go around the zombie. Now we can further exploit this zombies being attracted to us even more, because the next skill that you need to develop is pulling zombies. Pulling zombies might be the single most important skill to passively do all the time. Let's pretend you have a long hallway and there is one zombie in the middle of it. You might be able to skirt around either side of that zombie, but you might also take some damage. So instead, what you should do is you should pull the zombie by moving to one side of that hallway. The zombie will then chase you to that side of the hallway, which then opens up the other side for you to dodge to the other side and go around him without taking any damage. Obviously, one zombie is a great example here. However, this is usually the case with multiple zombies. If there are multiple zombies, or if you have your own train, you want to pull those zombies or pull the horde that you have in one area to open up a passageway to another area. If you run at the zombies, if you run in a straight line, if you run directly where you want to go, you might be doing yourself a disservice. Being able to pull the zombies and create larger areas and larger gaps for you to run through is perhaps the single most game-changing skill that you could ever learn in zombies. There are a ton of training strategies that are built upon this aspect. For example, you could see my docks training strategy here in Black Ops 7. I'm pulling the zombies towards the docks. I'm pulling them on each end, so that way when I turn around and cut back through the docks and through this center area, I have a safe gap to run through. If I were to just run from end to end, the zombies would take up all of that space in the middle. So I want to pull them to one side, opening up a gap for me to run through safely. Which brings us perfectly into the cutback strategy. Obviously, this dock strategy is just a big cutback because I get to a certain area and then I turn around and I cut back. But this aspect of training zombies can be done basically anywhere, so long as you are correctly pulling zombies. Again, this is very similar to the snake game, where instead of making a big circle, you're actually zigzagging and doubling back. This is by far one of the most stressful things to learn, but once you do, a whole world is open to you. Now, there's another thing cutbacks are really good at, and that is gathering your zombies and making them an even tighter horde. Once again, very much like that snake game, going back and forth zigzagging, you can really condense your horde into one central area. It's a minor thing, but anything helps when gaining control of your zombies. Take a look at this tense training strategy here on the giant in the teleporter room. Cutting back from this corner, going around to this corner, cutting back, cutting back. We call this a banana loop, and we'll get to that later, but this strategy and this skill is utilized when a full circle cannot be completed. When you cannot completely rotate through a circular pattern, you can just turn around and do a half circle. And this is not exclusive to just training strategies. This can be done as an improv. For example, here on the death ray of DE, if you ever get cut off here or feel like you cannot progress through your circle, you could just turn around and cut back. Mastering the cutback is going to save you so many downs, and it's going to make you feel so powerful. But what happens when you can't just avoid the zombies, you can't pull zombies from anywhere, and you can't even double back? Well, you are at your final resort, short, this is the last case scenario, and you're simply just gonna wanna shoot the zombie. When you're first learning how to train zombies, this is gonna be something that you forget. Because you're so focused on dodging and weaving and trying to get zombies in your horde, you're gonna forget that you can actually just kill the zombies in front of you if there's no better option. Now, depending on the game you're playing, this is gonna be a little bit easier or more difficult. On the modern games like Cold War and onward, if you're keeping up with your weapon strength, this is no big deal. However, if you're playing a game like Black Ops 4 or Black Ops 3 and before, your weapons do not do a good job of killing zombies after round like 20, especially when you're in this gathering phase of training zombies. And so the number one thing that you must do if you're playing Black Ops 4 or Black Ops 3 and before, you need to train with a wonder weapon out. Whether that's a wonder weapon or like a thunder wall ammo mod in Black Ops 3 to get things out of your way, or a really strong shotgun for a while, there are going to be times where dodging or cutting through or cutting back is just not gonna cut it, so you need to kill the zombie in front of you. And of course, this is where the map-specific equipment, field upgrades, or even the zombie shield from back in the day is very useful, because maybe you could turn towards the zombie with your shield. In Black Ops 7, my favorite thing to do is sliding into zombies. Of course, wall jumping in Black Ops 7 is good. In Black Ops 6, you've got PhD slider to explode the zombies in front of you. And I just have to emphasize the Black Ops 7 sliding into zombies and the wall jumping in Black Ops 7, knowing when to utilize these advanced movements is going to dramatically improve your game. Additionally, from Black Ops 4 and beyond, I believe, simply shooting the zombies has a chance to stagger the zombies. It's a small mechanic and it might not save your life, at least consistently, but it is absolutely something to pay attention to. Now, outside of killing zombies, if all else fails, don't be afraid to improvise and reset your train. When I was first learning how to train zombies, I was stuck in this one specific training pattern. I have to run in this specific circle, I have to run in this specific area, but the reality is you can actively just run away into a different area and reset. Whether that's running all the way across the map to reset the spawns, whether that's just training into a different room to temporarily get back to where you need to be, don't be so glued to one specific training pattern that it's going to cost you a down. Especially as you're learning zombies, this is going to be an important lesson to learn. But between dodging zombies, slowing down and waiting, or hurrying up, then pulling zombies and cutting back, or simply killing zombies, we could put all of this together and start actively training zombies. Except now you need to start looking at zombies in a different way. It can be very overwhelming to see just a blur of zombies coming at you. However, the way I train zombies, the way I see zombies, is by lines of zombies. What I mean by this is that you'll notice that zombies usually come from really specific areas, whether that's a window barrier, a spawn from the ground, or just like a doorway where they're spawning around the corner. There are these lines of zombies that will come towards you. When you are actively gathering the zombies, it is your job to look for the gaps within those lines of zombies. Then you can use your avoiding, your dodging, your pulling, your cutting back skills in order to survive through those lines of zombies. This is what the core of training zombies actually is. I am always looking at the next line of zombies, where that next threat is coming from, whether I need to hurry up and shoot the gap of zombies, whether I need to slow down and find the next gap in the line of zombies, or I need to shoot my gun to get through that line of zombies. I'm always looking at where that next threat is going to be. And this is where I cannot emphasize this enough. Having a higher field of view, or FOV, is going to help so much. As you are getting more comfortable with training zombies, you're almost not even running away from zombies, you're almost strafing away from zombies sideways. As you can see in the gameplay, I'm always looking at the next spot, and so the zombie horde isn't necessarily behind me, rather it's to the side of me. This depends on your strategy, of course, if you're doing a banana loop, if you're circling, if you're strafing, if you're doing all these things, but paying attention to where the next threat, the next thing you need to dodge, is going to be game changing. Now, the core of this training zombies, these lines and looking for the gaps, is very different across a ton of zombie games. We're going to talk about super sprinters later, but they can mess up some of these gaps. But if you are playing in Black Ops 4 or before, you need to be very careful when you pick up a carpenter power-up drop. This is a very niche thing. However, if you pick up a carpenter, it is going to repair all of the window barriers, which means that when zombies start spawning in, especially on the higher rounds, they are going to pile up on the windows, and then when that window barrier is broken down, that line of zombies is going to be a whole lot longer, and it's going to be a whole lot more difficult to find any sort of gap within that line of zombies because they were all piled up on the window because of the carpenter drop. It's not impossible, but just be aware. Now, they've recently gotten rid of the carpenter drop, so you don't really need to worry about that, but you got to worry about something else in these modern games. Again, we'll get to super sprinters later. In all zombie games, though, as you progress to the higher rounds, the zombies themselves are going to start spawning faster, meaning that the game is going to spawn those 24 zombies in a shorter duration of time as you progress through the rounds. I believe this caps in Black Ops 3 at round either 32 or 38, I forget which one it was. Now, this can be a good thing. When the zombies are spawning in faster, it means there's less time that you're going to spend in this gathering phase of zombies, and this is especially true in modern zombies. However, this comes with the downside similar to the carpenter drop, where when you're looking at the lines of zombies, because they're spawning faster, you might not have a good clean line or gap to go through. But now that we've gathered all of our zombies, we could start killing the zombies. Once again, in the modern games with stronger weapons and even a health cap, this can be incredibly addicting to do. It's a trend that I've seen that most new zombie players are super hyper focused on shooting the zombies at all times. Now look, I love killing zombies as much as the next guy, but you have to do it intelligently and with the right timing, especially in the classic zombie games, like Black Ops 3 and before. So to kill your zombie horde, you're going to want to try and find a killing lane to go through. Killing lane, killing area, the verbiage isn't important. Within your training strategy, you want to find an area where you feel most comfortable shooting the zombies. What I have found is that this space where I like to shoot zombies is usually where there are no zombies or fewer zombies that are spawning in. For example, here in Liberty Falls, I love shooting zombies as I'm backpedaling into this corner of Liberty Lanes because there are no zombie spawns here, and when I'm done shooting, I have all of the zombies in my peripheral vision. Of course, if you've let the max number of zombies spawn in, then you can kind of just shoot them anywhere because no zombies are going to spawn in because you're at the max horde limit. And luckily, ever since Black Ops 3, we have a lot of different ways to help us kill zombies. Regular weapons are going to take the longest amount of time, especially on the classic games like Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, but starting with Black Ops 3, we have ammo mods. Ammo mods allow you to kill zombies incredibly efficiently, especially in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 7. Ammo mods actually allow you to basically have a non-existent killing lane. As you can see in this really small Shinanuma strategy in Black Ops 3, you could use your gobblegums to get a pack-a-punched gun and to get ammo mods, but right here, very close quartered, as I'm training and cutting back, I'm just activating Deadwire and Brain Rot here. This allows me to passively kill the zombies as I'm training. Of course, in the classic games, this is the role that wonder weapons would play. You would train up your zombies and then just turn around and shoot them with a thunder gun or a wave gun or the baby gun. Now, you might be tempted to just destroy your entire horde. You spent so long gathering up all of these zombies, you just want to destroy them. However, there are some consequences for this, and it goes back to that core basic fundamental of the zombie horde limit. Let's pretend you're at your 24 zombie limit, or 40 zombie limit in the newer games. If you killed 5 zombies, then that would trigger 5 more zombies to spawn back in, and you would need to gather those zombies up or dodge those zombies effectively. However, if you were to kill all 40 of your zombies, that would trigger the game to spawn in 40 more zombies, because that's the limit, and you would need to dodge and weave 40 zombies at the same time all over again. Now, this can be great if you're trying to get through the rounds really quickly, but when you're learning to train zombies, especially on those classic games, you might want to pace yourself and only kill a handful of zombies at a time so you can practice your dodging techniques a little bit more thoroughly. The faster you kill, the faster the rounds will go, but I encourage you to go at your own pace. The more skillful you are at dodging zombies and gathering zombies, the less time you need to spend actually not killing zombies. Now, for you higher skilled zombie players, you might very well be able to kill zombies all the time as they're spawning in. This is excellent for efficiency. However, I will say, especially in the modern games like Cold War, Black Ops 6, and Black Ops 7, remember, those games have a higher horde limit, and so it's going to take longer for all 40 zombies to spawn in Black Ops 7. And so to avoid being really tedious or really bored with the high rounds, you might want to practice killing zombies while gathering zombies. I would caution you away from doing this as a beginner, but you can measure how comfortable you are with training zombies by how effectively you can dodge and train and gather the zombies while training them and killing killing them at the same time. Now, there is one thing that is the most important thing that you need to remember while you're killing zombies. When you're first learning how to train, when you're first learning how to play zombies, you are going to be addicted to shooting zombies. It's going to be very satisfying. But the number one reason why I see people die all the time is because people develop tunnel vision. They'll get a great group of zombies hoarded up together and they will start shooting them, and they'll keep shooting them, and remember, as they die, they start respawning. And so eventually when the zombies respawn, they then attack the player, and because the player wasn't looking at where they're going because they're so focused on killing the zombies, they wind up going down. So while yes, we all love killing zombies, be sure you're doing it intelligently. Now, killing zombies isn't just about killing zombies. As much as we would love just a game with just zombies, that's not the game we're playing, because we have special enemies. We have hellhounds, mimics, manglers, abominations, and so much more. So how do you prioritize your enemies? This is usually going to be map dependent and sometimes even game dependent. Most of the time, traditional zombies are usually low on my priority list. High on my priority list are enemies that are easy to take care of / enemies that are really fast and can deal chip damage to you. So these are things like Ravagers and Hellhounds. Especially in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, these vermin enemies can take away your shield really quickly. They are meant to distract you, so be very careful, but they also usually have less health, so they're easier to take care of. Another high priority enemy is going to be basically any single elite enemy, whether that's the Zursas from Black Ops 7, or the Panzers from Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 3, or the Margwas. These things usually demand your attention. These things will demand your attention because if you try to ignore them, you're most likely going to down. They are by far the highest priority piece on the board. However, there are other enemies that we would classify as special enemies. These are your mimics, your doppelgasts, sometimes even your manglers, and with these special enemies, depending on the specific situation, you might be able to ignore them. In fact, even the amalgam, even though it's not a special enemy, you're able to get away with just letting them go for a little bit. And the reason I say this is because things like mimics and doppelgasts, and again, even amalgams, they're pretty easily trainable. In fact, when you have a big enough fort, sometimes it's like nearly impossible for you to even see the mimic or the doppelgast. Now, if they get close to you, they can deal a lot of damage and they have a lot of health, so you do want to prioritize them over normal zombies, but I would not let them distract you too much, because that's when you could make a mistake with regular zombies and get cornered. Again, these are fairly map dependent, so if you don't know whether or not you should prioritize something, I always ask myself or try to test out, am I able to train normally with this special enemy? If the answer is yes, then I don't need to prioritize it that much. If the answer is no, then I need to prioritize it a lot and come up with a game plan in order to take it out as quick as possible. This is also the case with super sprinters, especially in the newer titles with super sprinters. Instead of shooting at the entity that is the horde of zombies behind you, I try to make it a point to shoot specific super sprinters that are leading the pack, because once you start killing the super sprinters, you're actually giving yourself more time to kill the regular zombies within that horde. And believe me, once you've mastered the art of training, regular zombies are going to be the least of your worries. In fact, now's the perfect time to talk about super sprinters and what they do. Surprisingly, I just found out that super sprinters most of the time are not faster than you while walking. That's right, just like normal zombies, in every single game until Modern Warfare Zombies, most of the time you are faster than super sprinters while you're walking. Of course, if you have an LMG or if you build your gun a certain way, maybe you'll be a little bit slower. And once you do get to Modern Warfare Zombies, Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, that's where you're gonna need to start sprinting. And even before that, you are gonna want to start sprinting a little bit more frequently once super sprinters start coming. But just like those hellhounds, just like other enemies, don't let these super sprinters get in your brain. Think about what super sprinters do on a fundamental level. Going back to our beautiful line analogy, as you're looking for the gaps throughout your gameplay, all super sprinters do is they decrease your reaction time. They make the gaps you need to shoot faster, and in other cases, constantly changing in their spacing. They are going to hold you accountable to your reaction time and your decision-making skills. Additionally, once you train super sprinters, they're actually going to expand the danger zone for the Horde. As you can see here, we have our spread out Horde here once we train them into this nice pretty Horde right here. But then once super sprinters are involved, this is what it might look like. You'll have your normal zombies running in their normal sprint speed, but then you'll have a little tiny group of super sprinters charging the pack, leading the charge that you need to prioritize and be aware of. This does make things like waiting to shoot the gap a little bit more risky, but luckily most games with super sprinters, especially the fast super sprinters, have armor, and armor allows you to take more hits. I know there's a big debate around that and damage scaling. We're not going to talk about that today. But now let's put your freshly acquired zombie knowledge to the test. Starting with some classic zombies here on the death ray of DE, we are running around, we're killing our zombies like we said, and we've got respawning zombies coming in, and just right here, look at this picture. What do you think you should do? Our first option is going to be running right here to the left, kind of hurrying up like we said before. But another solution might be slowing down, like we said earlier, slowing down, maybe going to the left here, stuttering a little bit and going around them. And if you are unsure or uncomfortable with this picture, you have your wonder weapon out and you could just shoot the zombies. What did I decide to do? Well, I decided to go to the left here. You can see I thought about pausing and going to the right, but I did ultimately decide to go straight through this gap. Now that's a little bit tight of a gap right there. So that was a close call, but we made it. Now we have a very similar situation here where we have these two zombies. This stressed me out when I was first learning zombies so much. What would you do? It looks very similar, doesn't it? Like maybe we can sprint through here, but this zombie, in my opinion, is a little too close for comfort. So again, we could shoot the zombies here. That would waste some ammo, but what I decided to do is I decide to pull the zombies here, wait just a little stutter step. I know it's hard to view here in slow motion, but I just wait for the zombies to come to me, and then I dodge to the right, and look at how big that gap is now. That zombie was standing right where I wanted to go, right on that staircase. Almost exactly, you can see that is exactly where I go, all because I was a little bit patient. Once again, for this DE clip, we have this situation. It looks even more tight than the ones before. I could run through right here. I could use my bow, but believe it or not, I actually stutter a little bit and go to the right again. Look at how clean that is. Again, as I was learning zombies, I might have just shot my bow here, but just pausing right here, I think this is genius, because even though I know I'm going to dodge to the right here, if I were to just strafe to the right, if I were to enter in this area as far right as I could, I would be pulling the zombies this way. And so it's important that I pull the zombies away from where I want to go, and even pausing right here for a little bit to give them time to open up this gap for me to run through. This is brilliant. And it's a great example of how even when running a circle, you kind of want to run the smallest circle you can to pull the zombies away from any sort of escape angle or awkward situation that you need to encounter. That is just a brilliant example there. Rounding off our classic zombie clip here, you could see we're training in the giant, prioritizing those hellhounds, and right here, I know it's a little bit difficult to see because we just got hit, and whenever you get hit in Black Ops 3, your screen blurs for whatever reason, but you can see we've got two zombies right here approaching us. Once again, I probably could have sped up and ran through the zombies, probably could have shotgunned them with my Thunderwall shotgun, all of which is acceptable, but instead I just kind of paused, I stuttered, I lagged a little bit behind, and then I went around them. As you can see, I have a preference for waiting and stuttering, but I encourage you, running through the zombies just like this is also very viable, and in most of these clips probably would have worked out. To contrast this all, we have Black Ops 6 and Liberty Falls. Now remember, we're dealing with a lot more zombies and eventually super sprinters, but I love this clip because you can really clearly see the lines of zombies coming from this window barrier. You see the line of zombies coming from this window barrier. You see the line of zombies coming from that window barrier, and all the way around here you see the line coming from this window barrier there. What I love about this clip is you can very also clearly see the gap that I want you to take through all of these zombies, just like that. Now, again, I had to hurry up, and that's a great shot, the hand cannon, the mangler. I had to hurry up in these clips. We're gonna do it in slow motion here. You could see Instead of pausing and waiting for this zombie, I'm just going to start running through here. I notice this gap closing, so we're going to start sprinting through here. I notice this gap really close quartered there and sprint through there. So I find myself sprinting a lot more in modern zombies just because of the sheer number of zombies and pace of the game. But there are opportunities just like this where, again, very similar to classic zombies, we can shoot this gap here. I believe this was like the start of a new horde. You could see we don't have a clean horde right here. So I kind of want to take my time, gather up as much as I can. And so we could shoot this gap here. We don't have a lot of zombies through here. I bet you that would be really safe. But instead what I do is I pause again and look at that gap. Did you notice that gap there? I sure did. Right there, pause, go through here, run through this gap, run through this gap because there's no way I'm going to wait for any gaps up there. Run through it just like that. Beautiful, just like regular zombies. I love it. Now, this is going to be an example of you don't need to stick to any one training strategy. Look at that right there. Instead of sitting here and thinking, oh my goodness, I need to go this direction. I need to run the same circle over and over again. You can see there might be a gap here. This zombie looks like it's going to hit me. In fact, I do already get hit by the zombie behind me. So I know I've got the horde right behind me. I don't have time to wait, and I don't really want to shoot this gap because the zombie's here. Instead, what I do is I just go over this thing. Now, in previous zombie games, that might look like cutting back. It might be going somewhere else entirely, or even using your wonder weapon to shoot the zombies. That's all viable things to do, but it's also viable and healthy for you to think, oh, just think of an alternative way of going around that zombie or that barrier. But now we got to take a look at super sprinters. Here we are around 41. We've got super sprinters on our back. That's going to create a lot of pressure on us. But as you could see, that really only took one circle of this training strategy. Boom, that's a small circle too. And all of the zombies have spawned in. And as we go back here, there's not a lot of zombies still here, but there is an opportunity. I know you're looking at this, you're like, Donuts, this looks like the easiest training strategy here, but I do something so small that I think is very important. It looks like I could either go this way, I could go right through the middle, or I could even cut around this way. And I'll tell you, I go through the center, but watch exactly how I go through the center right there. Watch what I do. Isn't that curious? I do a little stutter step here. Instead of just sprinting through, once I pass this first zombie, I then start to strafe, use my omni movement away from that armored zombie. It's a tiny little thing, but just that little whoop right there, you can see that armored zombie started to hit me or try to hit me, but I dodged them. Now, I know a lot of people think that the hit range is so much bigger on these modern games, and it might be, but I also think little tiny details like this make the world of difference. Now, speaking of super sprinters and increasing the pace of the game here, new to Black Ops 7, we have a brand new dynamic where you can knock over zombies simply by sliding into them. I think this is a great equalizer because in this situation, again, it looks so like completely normal, but I think the best course of action for this zombie is for you to slide into it and knock it over. It's an armored zombie. In Black Ops 7, they're going to deal a ton of armor damage here. And so instead of trying to run around the armored zombie, I could run around the armored zombie, but that might have other consequences because if we go forward here, this is that strategy I was talking about pulling the zombies here. If you'll see, this is a great visual. If I went around that zombie over here, then the zombies would be more over here inside of this area instead of in a nice line right here where I can shoot them, but not only shoot them when I come back around and then I knock over some more zombies. Also very important, I knock over the zombie and I go to my right to avoid this horde, right? To avoid getting hit unintentionally. But I can now move over here and have a lot more space. Look at how easy this gap is to shoot now, as opposed to if I ran all the way over here, I would have zombies all spread out right here. And so of course I'm able to try and shoot some zombies to try to activate an ammo mod. But as we get up through here, you can see there's a gap that we can shoot, but these are super sprinters. So even though this gap would be so huge in classic zombies, It's actually not that big of a gap here in Black Ops 7. These bigger maps, these bigger play spaces are necessary to play the game with super sprinters. And so instead of just running through this, what I decide to do is I decide to slide into this zombie while keeping my back to it because I've got turtle shell. That keeps me from taking any sort of damage. It's awesome. Then I can kind of just run around that zombie. I probably should have slid into it just to make this train a little bit tighter, but now we have great target prioritization, shooting out the super sprinters, and we can continue the strategy over and over again. So now that you know how to train, the question is, where do you train and how do you practice training? Because knowing the mechanics behind training is great. That's a good building block, but now we need to take a step back and take a look at how different training strategies and different training spots can behave differently and require different mechanics and skills in order to execute properly. The most basic way of thinking about training spots or training strategies, each training spot is basically on a spectrum of either small to large. Small training strategies are very fast, usually they're quite dangerous. You usually need the correct spot to do it because spawn control is a big factor. You're gonna have less time to actually kill the zombies, and there is a whole lot less forgiveness in terms of your literal training strategy. As we move up the spectrum to larger and larger training strategies, the larger training strategies are usually safer because there's more room to maneuver. They're usually lower risk because you're mainly dodging zombies. Once again, thinking of it like that snake game, it's really easy to run in a really big circle and avoid your tail. On top of that, with a large training strategy, usually you can incorporate traps into the killing process. Unfortunately, the big downside of this training strategy is that sometimes it could be slow, and it's not going to be that convenient to pick up the ground loot like the armor plates or ammo from Vulture Aid, or even power-up drops like insta-kills, max ammos, and even nukes. And on the extreme end of the spectrum, we have whole map trains. These are less of training strategies and more so like running around the map strategies. While they can loop around and they can incorporate traps very easily, I find these incredibly difficult for a beginner to learn, and they can be harder to do on games after Black Ops 3 thanks to the despawn mechanic, where if you are far enough away from your zombies, they will despawn and then respawn in front of you. So unfortunately, I'm not going to spend too much time on this whole map strategy. Outside of sizes of training spots, we have styles of training spots. Of course, we all know the classic circle. Zombies is just running in circles. We've all heard it before. These are going to be your rocket pad strategies, your power strategies on the Giant, near PhD or Widow's Wine in Ascension, and of course the great Speed Cola Room in Astra Melora. These are probably ones that you're going to want to start with. They're very straightforward. It's the core foundation of all zombie gameplay. However, we also have some figure 8 training strategies. My favorite figure 8 training strategy is the Revelation Spawn Room. I just love it, going right in front of Quick Revive there, turning in a loop, going near the truck, turning in another loop, going back and forth in a figure 8. It's so satisfying, so fun, a little bit more dangerous. The modern equivalent of this that I could think of off the top of my head is the Terminus Cannon strategy. Yes, this could be a circle strategy, but I found it most safe when it's a figure 8 strategy. When there's one loop in front of the cannon and then there's another loop kind of to the side of the cannon right there, I love myself a good figure 8 strategy. Now, sort of the blend between the two, or really a figure 8 strategy, we are going to call a banana loop or a cutback loop. This is very similar to a figure 8 strategy, but it's just squished down into a half circle shape. Think of it like the docked strategy that I just showed you in Ashes of the Damned, with a big figure 8 just looping on either end, and of course the classic upper courtyard strategy in DE, cutting back every single time you get to the end, making a really oblong banana loop. This sort of strategy, as well as the figure 8, but really this strategy can be fairly difficult to do for a beginner, but they are really nice to practice that cutback strategy, and I learned how to cut back really effectively in DE in this upper courtyard, which is the perfect segue. Where in the world do you practice training? Which game should I start on, and what map should I try? Now, there are a ton, and I mean a ton of different options. I would love to make this its own separate video. We're gonna hit the bullet points here. As much as I freaking love Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7, I think if you really want to take training seriously, you really want to practice, I think there is no better game than Black Ops 3. Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1, World at War, those are also really good, but I think Black Ops 3 is the best, mainly because it's kind of the most punishing. Yes, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 1, World at War especially might be more punishing, but for training purposes, for practicing, Black Ops 3 has just enough to save you, like wonder weapons or specialists or even gobblegums, but they're very restricted. In Black Ops 3, and really any game before Black Ops 3, if you do something wrong, you're gonna know about it. These games hold you accountable, which is the best way to learn. Black Ops 4, Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7 Cold War, they allow you to make more mistakes, which sounds really good because you can keep progressing, but I would argue, especially in the modern games, especially in the early rounds, those games allowing you to make mistakes is bad for your muscle memory, and it's bad for learning the best practices and skills. So for me, Black Ops 3 is my very first choice. Though I understand not everyone has Black Ops 3, but if you've got the time and money to spend, I would highly recommend it. I should mention in Black Ops 3 and earlier, you're actually gonna want to start to try and train as early as around like 8 or 10. Because you have so few options of get out jail free cards or shooting the zombies and getting them out of your way, you want to take the zombies very seriously pretty early on. Just be conscious about where you are mid-round, and I always try, even in the modern games, I always try to play around in a specific training spot and getting used to holding 1 or 2 zombies at the end of the round if I want to do anything. Moving forward in time, we have Black Ops 4. This is kind of a really good middle ground between classic and regular zombies, or classic and modern zombies. The specialist system specifically is a great get out of jail free card, which can help you if Black Ops 3 is a little too punishing for you. It doesn't make training easier, so you still are building those good habits of training, but it is a better and more consistent get out of jail free card. So honestly, Black Ops 4 is not a bad choice either. However, the thing that kind of sucks about Black Ops 4 is that it has so much special enemy spam that it makes the training spots less consistent. Perhaps less clean would be a better phrase. Black Ops 3 has some really clean training strategies, Black Ops 4 not so much. However, custom mutations will also help you in Black Ops 4 because you can turn off all of these special enemies and just train with regular zombies. So if you're a fan of Black Ops 4, that is absolutely a phenomenal way of going. Now, talking about Black Ops 6, Cold War, and Black Ops 7, they're all relatively within the same area where training is a lot easier, especially in the first couple rounds. Unfortunately, this really blurs the line between what success and failures are. Yes, it allows for multiple failures, so if you're really struggling, these are great games to get into. But if you really are serious about training and practicing, you're going to need to get to high rounds and really reach the damage scaling to even start holding yourself accountable. If you are going to do a modern game, I would highly recommend Black Ops 7. Because of its damage scaling and special enemy balance, it is really close to classic zombies. Plus, with Turtle Shell and with Cursed, you can add on the Golden Spork for even higher damage. And with the heavy armored zombies dealing extra damage to you, extra armored durability, those things hold you accountable in a way very similar to classic zombies, and I personally love it. So now that you've picked your favorite zombie game to practice on, what strategy, what map should you do? Starting, of course, with Black Ops 3, this is the cleanest or purest training spots that I would say. There are a ton of them across the whole game. The handful that I would suggest with you is obviously on DE, the Death Ray. I love it. DE is a very simple map. The Wolf Bow is a very simple wonder weapon to get to. I have a tutorial of it on my channel right here for you. It's a simple circle strategy, lots of good lines, lots of good practice for running your gaps, and there are other training strategies on DE like the Upper Courtyard, just in case you want something a little bit different. For a classic game, we have Ascension just outside of PhD or Widow's Wine. You can get the Thunder Gun out of the box. This is a Black Ops 1 map, so it's very simple. And there are a ton of different training strategies. Obviously, in front of Widow's Wine is my preferred method, at least for practicing, but you can train in front of the Pack-a-Punch room, you can train in the spawn room. There's so many different ways to train on here. Of course, with Black Ops 3, I have to mention the Kino stage, again from Black Ops 1. Personally, I feel like this is a bit overrated, but it does teach you at least the very basics of dodging zombies and letting zombies get out of your way. So if you are a brand new beginner, the Kino stage might be good for you, but I really outgrew it pretty quickly. And finally, I just have to say it, the Giant is so good for practicing training. You've got inside the VMP room, you've got inside the teleporter room, you've got a couple of strategies inside the teleporter room, but I would have to showcase training in a circle near the power switch. I think this is one of the first ones that I learned. I absolutely loved it. You don't have the shield in the giant, so it's even more accountable. Obviously, there's a ton more training strategies on Black Ops 3, but I don't think you want to tackle Shadows of Evil if this is your first zombies experience. For Black Ops 4, again, I highly recommend custom mutations, turning off those special enemies, just focusing on zombies if you're brand new. The 9 spawn room is an honorable mention. It's really big, especially with a fire in there, but I don't think that's the best for learning. I recently trained in the Pack-a-Punch area of Classified, which I love, but as weird as it sounds, I do think Blood of the Dead has some really good training strategies in the New to Industries building and the rooftop here. And luckily, Brutus and the Hellhounds aren't too oppressive. Like I said, you have your specialist weapon, and with custom mutations, you can cater this to however you want to practice. Moving on to Cold War, I would recommend D Machina in the spawn room. That's a great one. Firebase C is also an underrated map overall, but the helicopter crash site is also really good for training. However, if you're gonna do modern zombies, I would either do Black Ops 6 or Black Ops 7, and with Black Ops 6, Liberty Falls in the bowling alley is really one of my favorite training strategies of all time. You have your really clean lines of zombies. You can cut through those gaps. You can slide through with PhD. I just love it. Also, we do have the Tomb, and the Tomb has some good ones inside of the Quick Revive area or on the side area. I don't know, the Speed Cola room, I guess you could call this one as a fun one, but you've got a lot of special enemies in the Tomb, so I would stick with Liberty Falls. Plus with Liberty Falls, you've got tons of them. You've got inside the church, you've got inside the graveyard, on the street in front of the bowling alley, in the street next to the bank with the trucks, you've got in spawn. There's so many in Liberty Falls to practice. But finally, in Black Ops 7, I gotta shout out the Doc's strategy in Ashes of the Damned. It's one of my favorites. I love the cutting back, I love the looping, it works so well. Honorable mention to the farm area. I feel like this one's a little too chaotic for new people to learn. Same with the Paradox Junction street strategy. There's some wall jumps involved that I found, and I don't know if that's great for beginners. But the next best strategy I think is going to be an Astra Malorum in the Speed Cola room. This is going to be a little bit safer than the docks and maybe even a little bit calmer. Very similar to a larger circle where you're just focusing on dodging the zombies. This will help you practice when to kill them, when to horde them up, keep your peripheral vision open, and Oscar is so easy to avoid in this room. Now, I know you're excited about all this information, you want to jump in game and you want to practice, but let me tell you, in order to get better, you are going to need to fail. You're gonna need to make a mistake and be held accountable for that mistake. So don't give up, keep pushing through those failures, and keep pushing your limits. Try training in smaller and smaller areas. Try doing things mid-round in the older games. If you're playing the newer games, do the TED tasks or SAM trials, and in the Hold the Location trials, don't kill any zombies and just try to train within those small areas. Practice zigzagging back and forth to collect your horde into an even tighter area. It's gonna take some time, but I know you can do it. Believe me, there are a ton of more details that I would have loved to go over in this video. Like I said earlier, every single game has its different quirks and different strategies. I didn't even go over my favorite augments in Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 or my equipment, but believe me, I could go on. If you want to see a follow-up video going over specifics of specific games and specific strategies and specific maps, please like this video and specifically share this video with who you think could use it. If this video blows up, I'm absolutely going to go on to more strategies, more map-specific things, all the information you never know you wanted. And lucky for you, I do have a couple of very specific training strategy videos, so if you are starving for even more training content, be sure to check out these videos and stay beautiful.